Here are top 5 decision will effects. America and whole world very badly. Number 1 is overhaul of federal bureaucracy. A hiring freeze and regulatory pause disrupted federal operations. Trump also empowered Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency (DOGE) to slash programs, raising concerns about privatization and weakened public services. Here are some points in overhaul of federal bureaucracy. Number 1 is centralizing power through the OMB. The Office of Management and Budget, led by Russ Vought, became the central nervous system of Trump's agenda. Number 2 is workforce reduction and purge of career employees. Trump offered 2 million federal employees a fork-in-the-road deal: resign voluntarily with severance pay or risk termination. Number 3 is dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs. DEI initiatives across federal agencies were labeled as radical and wasteful, and systematically eliminated. Employees were instructed to report colleagues promoting DEI efforts, fostering a culture of fear. Number 4 is abolishing or weakening key agencies. Agencies like USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau were targeted for consolidation or defunding. FEMA faced a proposed phase-out, with disaster response responsibilities shifted to states. Loyalists like Elon Musk were empowered to lead efficiency initiatives, sidelining experts. Second biggest decision taken by Trump is withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. First, we need to understand what is the Paris Climate Agreement. The Paris Agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, ideally 1.5 degrees Celsius, by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Countries set their own targets, called Nationally Determined Contributions, NDCs, and update them every 5 years. The U.S. pledged to cut emissions by 26 to 28% below 2005 levels by 2025. President Trump withdrew the U.S. in 2020, but President Biden rejoined in 2021, recommitting to climate goals. The U.S. now aims for net zero emissions by 2050, aligning with global efforts to address climate change through innovation, clean energy, and international cooperation. So what will happen after withdrawal by USA? After a U.S. president in 2025 withdraws from the Paris Climate Agreement, global consequences could include weakened climate efforts, as the U.S. is a major emitter and key player in global cooperation. This could lead to slower progress in reducing emissions, exacerbating climate impacts like extreme weather, rising sea levels, and ecosystem loss. Diplomatic relations may strain, with allies viewing the U.S. as unreliable. Economically, carbon tariffs on U.S. goods could disrupt trade. Domestically, states and businesses committed to climate action may resist, creating internal divisions. Overall, withdrawal could hinder global climate goals and damage U.S. leadership and credibility. Third decision by Trump is rollback of transgender rights and DEI programs. This decision is the rollback of transgender rights and DEI programs under Trump's 2025 agenda marked a significant reversal of progressive policies. The administration systematically dismantled diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives across federal agencies, labeling them as radical and wasteful. Programs connecting marginalized communities, such as Black students, to federal opportunities were suspended, and employees were encouraged to report colleagues promoting DEI efforts, fostering a culture of fear and exclusion. Simultaneously, Trump eliminated federal protections for transgender individuals, rolling back policies that ensured access to health care, education, and workplace equality. These decisions marginalized LGBTQ+ communities, particularly transgender people, and reversed decades of progress toward addressing systemic inequities. Critics argued the moves undermined social justice and inclusivity, while supporters claimed they aligned with conservative values. The rollbacks sparked widespread backlash from civil rights groups, who warned of long-term harm to vulnerable populations and a regression in efforts to promote fairness and representation in federal institutions. Fourth decision by Trump is suspension of foreign aid programs. So, the suspension of foreign aid programs under Trump's 2025 agenda involved a 90-day freeze on U.S. foreign assistance, impacting critical initiatives like PEPFAR, HIV/AIDS relief, and USAID-funded projects. This decision jeopardized life-saving programs, including antiretroviral treatments for 20 million HIV patients in Africa, risking drug resistance and increased infections. Aid for food security, disaster relief, and global health initiatives was also halted, exacerbating humanitarian crises in developing nations. Critics argued the freeze undermined U.S. global leadership and strained diplomatic relations, while supporters claimed it prioritized domestic spending. The suspension disrupted long-term development goals, weakened pandemic preparedness, and left vulnerable populations without essential support, highlighting the far-reaching consequences of curtailing foreign aid on global health, stability, and U.S. influence abroad. The fifth decision taken by Trump is sweeping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. It could worse impact on global economy. Trump's sweeping tariffs, 25% on most goods from Canada and Mexico, and 10% on Chinese imports, have significant negative effects on the global economy. These measures disrupt global supply chains, particularly in sectors like automotive, electronics, and consumer goods, leading to production delays and higher costs. Retaliatory tariffs from affected countries escalate trade wars, reducing international trade volumes and slowing economic growth. Economists warn of inflationary pressures as businesses pass higher costs to consumers. Additionally, tariffs on critical materials like rare earths from China threaten green energy projects, delaying the global transition to renewables. Overall, these policies create market instability, strain diplomatic relations, and hinder global economic recovery, disproportionately impacting developing nations reliant on trade.